have a quorum. We have all 5 board members here, so I call this meeting to order. Our first order of business, I just want to take a moment to remind us as a board that the board speaks with one voice, and that we can have discussion and disagreements, but once a decision is made, it is expected that all board members will abide by that decision. The question of broadcasting via Zoom has arisen. I hear no motion to broadcast via Zoom.
Well, I'm already, it's not broadcast, it's electronic access.
I don't care, Andy. Do we have Zoom or not?
Okay, I make a motion that we allow the recording that's already begun to continue to allow these 2 individuals to participate. In particular, Darlene, who's had surgery today.
So that was, again, you did that on your own. That was not a board decision. We will take a vote. All in favor, raise your hand.
Hold on just a moment. Prior to every vote, there needs to be open discussion for the homeowners, including those that are participating electronically. Prior to every vote, everybody has
I'm
an opportunity.
listening.
Darlene, do you have anything to say?
Well, I'm a little confused. Number one, I didn't know that this meeting was gonna take place. I don't know where it was, advertised. And number two, I don't see what the big deal is about doing Zoom meetings for people that aren't able to attend, physically at a meeting. I used to do it at work all the time. I don't know what the big deal is. I think we should encourage all homeowners, whether they're present there physically or via Zoom, should be considered. I don't understand what the issue is. And so that's my input. I'd like to be able to hear what's going on. My husband is en route to the meeting as we speak, and I'm not able to come to be present because I had surgery. So I would like to hear, if you wouldn't mind, what's going on in our HOA. If that, in the future meetings, if you decide that this isn't what you want to do, that's, I guess we'll have to agree to that. But right now, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to listen in.
Any other comments?
I have a comment. So first of all, this is allowed and arguably a right to participate at meetings. And given the overall conditions, in particular those that have, I would argue that this is somebody who is at least temporarily disabled from participating in the meeting. And to say that everybody has to participate in in-person meetings as a term and condition for participation, it's at least cold. It is exclusionary to those of the immunocompromised while we're in a period of high respiratory illness transmission. This is no longer just about COVID, flu, RSV, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it doesn't harm anything. I don't hear in the argument against it, which you are clearly against, what is the problem with it? And you're making it sound like this is a surprise. You were given the opportunity to discuss this by email in advance of the meeting so we don't use up meeting time. Could you please give me what the reason is that these 2 individuals participating create a problem for you? What's the problem there?
Any other comments? Yes, sir?
Personally, I have no objections of a official board certified type of Zoom that goes on your website and it stays there. What I have a hard time is finding our Zoom broadcast on YouTube, rude comments about people at the meeting and what they say. That I don't think is right, and therefore, if the Zoom is not controlled by the board and handled by the board, I don't think it should happen.
Heard?
I hope I'm not speaking out of order. This is a board meeting where we can observe some votes going on by board members. We're not gonna be voting on anything. I don't know if we're gonna be asked for comments or anything. It's just for the board, and I came to observe. So I don't know, what the regulations are there or anything, but I'm making a comment when it's only a board meeting.
Point of order. I believe the idea is for members to be able to make comments at a board meeting before the board votes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
I believe it's in order for, but part of the purpose of inviting members here is so that they can make comments before the board votes on a motion.
Right, which I think
Yes.
is kind of what Herb was trying to address.
Yep.
Any other comments? All right, all in favor, raise your hand.
What is the motion?
Motion is
thank you.
continue the recording so Darlene can
Excuse,
participate.
no,
It's my motion.
the motion is to have the Zoom and have it recorded. There is nothing in the motion about what happens to the recording or any of that nature.
This is not being recorded. This Zoom is not a recorded Zoom.
All in favor?
So,
I'm sorry.
point of information, what's the motion again?
Go ahead, Andy.
That we continue the Zoom so Darlene can have access because she's had surgery today.
Continue the unrecorded.
We're accommodating somebody who would like to participate.
Andy, just state the motion, please.
The motion is to leave this Zoom on. It has no recording. Nothing's been mentioned about recording.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against? It's 2 in favor, 2 against. I, at this particular meeting, will vote against. And the board, I believe, needs to develop in our meeting policy, what we're gonna do about Zoom access.
Darlene,
Yes,
you've heard the vote, so,
okay, alright.
hopefully Dennis is on his way, so your household can be represented.
Okay, thank you.
Have a good night.
Our next
Thank you.
order of business is
Bye.
our
Bye-bye.
agenda. Do I hear a motion to proceed with the agenda?
Yes, but do you have printed copies?
I have my copy, I did not bring anyone else.
I have one. I had one.
I'll see.
I make a motion to continue the agenda.
All right, comments from the board? Any
On the
com-
agenda, yes, I'd like to amend the agenda. The item under new business, C website, addresses administration of the Front Steps website, and I believe election of officers should actually occur tonight. It was a priority at your first meeting. You demanded it, you did it. And I think we have somebody that is willing to take that duty, and you're currently, shouldering 2 jobs, and it would actually fit in well here to vote on the secretary position at the time we discussed the website.
So there has been a motion to amend the agenda to include voting on a secretarial position. Comments?
Well, I think it's kind of premature, in the respect that there's a petition to remove 2 board members now, so it'd be kind of superfluous to engage in selecting officers at this point, because 2 of us might not be here.
Any other comments?
I have a comment.
Yes?
If it's me we're talking about, then I'm willing to take on that position. And I don't believe at the moment I'm threatened with removal.
Well, I guess we'll get to that when we get to the website.
And,
Andy?
so, regardless of whether or not there may be a removal in the future, tonight we have 5 board members with 5 votes. And so, election of officers has been presented as a priority in the past, and there's good reason to have that burden carried by somebody else who may do a very good job at it. Including things that are beyond that, the communications about meetings, we had that brought up by a homeowner today. Only posting on a calendar that, on a website that nobody visits, I think is not the greatest way to have participation. So I'd like to discuss the officer position because it's not a ranking of board members. We gotta keep that clear.
I would like to, note that the reason of the priority at our meeting last summer was because we needed a treasurer to take care of some things. And that is not the situation now. Any further comments? All right, so the motion is to,
Elect officers at that position.
please don't interrupt. The motion is to amend the motion to proceed with the agenda, to add, electing a secretary to the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I think also it is premature for officers at the moment, and I will vote no. Approval of minutes. Oh wait, I'm sorry. My apologies. We need now to vote on proceeding with the agenda as, here. All in favor? Opposed? I need to ask the board, we have not been including the vote totals in the minutes. And I want to know whether the board has changed their ideas on that, or if we continue with that. So I know how to go forward.
I think the vote should be recorded. The only exception is in executive session. And in some certain instances, which we're not gonna hit tonight, the tally of the vote in executive session does need to be recorded, but not necessarily who voted. But I think it's good for people to know who voted.
You don't vote, you don't record who voted, you only record the vote total.
But I think it's a good idea, so.
Any other comments?
I think the vote total needs to be recorded, but not the names.
All right, all in favor of recording the vote total in the minutes? Please raise your hand. Okay. All opposed? All right, so I will,
So what were the totals?
3. Three ayes, no nays. All right, approval of minutes of the November 8th, 2022 board meeting.
I move that we amend the minutes in regards to.
It would be correct, the minutes. And we just,
I'm making a motion that we correct the minutes regarding, the statement that a motion was made, when I handed you a proposal. In the spirit of brevity, this is the email that I sent to you on Sunday. I'm handing it down the table again. Same material that I sent on Sunday. I did not get a response. It is clear no motion was actually made. And then there's also in the minutes a recording that you had to tell the audience, that motions could not be made by homeowners. But no motion was actually made. It was simply with 2 minutes of comment period. If it is longer than that for the comments, it is acceptable to hand in written comments. Written comments are allowable. And so I handed them to you and asked them for consideration in an open vote on the agenda for the annual meeting. That said, I don't think that that needs to be recorded in the minutes at all. I would be fine with striking it versus correcting it. So my motion is to remove what is not factually correct. There was no motion.
It doesn't say that there was a motion. It says Andy Mowry requested a cap on proxy votes be added to the agenda. It does not say you made a motion. And then it says the attendees were reminded only board members can make motions.
In some people's mind, that may look like you're trying to say I made a motion out of order. And I don't want any recording that says I did something out of order. I presented, and it's also inaccurate that it was about capping proxies. It was about proxy solicitation and what I termed proxy hoarding, which is a cap. That can be reconfigured, but those are the words that I used. So if we're going to record what was said at a meeting, that's what was said. That was what was on the title of the proposal. So if we want to
All right,
record it
so-
accurately, please do. If not, I think it could be removed, and there was no need to remind anybody about homeowner motions, because none were made.
The comment, the reminder was given, it is recorded in the minutes. Is there, any other comments? Is there, is there an objection to removing that from the minutes?
I guess I'm confused. What are we removing here?
2 sentences.
This sentence here.
This seems to be a question of semantics. I don't know why we're even dealing with this, to be honest with you, so I would object to it. I mean, it's semantics. It seems to be much ado about nothing.
All right, so there is an objection to the correction. That means we must vote.
May I respond to that comment?
No, we're gonna vote. We're running out of time.
Okay.
All in favor of removing, that was the motion, correct?
Strike that sentence, yes.
All in favor of striking the sentence?
All right.
All opposed? I also am opposed. Any other comments on the minutes? All right, hearing none, then the minutes are approved. Treasurer's report.
Okay, we ended up the year in the checking account with $8,302.96. Savings account, $69,099.11. The invoices have been set up for the increased dues for 2023. So far, there doesn't appear to be any problems with auto pay. We had one check in December that for some reason got canceled and hasn't quite been resolved yet. But let me know if there's any other problems with either bill pay or just writing a check for the entire year. Monthly financials are being worked on, and then we'll do the yearly. We still have to get together, and so hopefully get the same person to do our taxes as we did last year. So that and 1099s have to be put out. And that's basically a summary of what's going on with the finances.
Yes.
just a simple question, do we have a tax deadline, which is the first one?
I don't think we're anywhere close to any tax deadline. I think it's, what's it, April 15th?
Okay. There's no, we don't have to do any safe harbor or anything in January? Okay, great, thank you.
Yes.
Is Jen still coming on board to do the bookkeeping?
Yes.
Cool.
She is on board.
Didn't know that.
Well, we needed somebody that could, get the invoices straightened out before the end of before the beginning of the year.
Great.
All right, schedule for new business, schedule for our regular board meetings. We need to, come up with what we think is a proper schedule to have our regular meetings, in part so that as we get near time, we can reserve rooms if we need to, or whatever it is we need to do. And also get it on the calendar.
Well, I think I would make a motion that, you know, we schedule meetings consistently as possible. You know, unless, you know, an extraordinary event occurs, we have to schedule something, on short notice, but, you know, I would think every other month would be adequate unless we have pressing business. And I would just, you know, pick, you know, like the second Tuesday or second Wednesday of the month. And that way we could probably set up a schedule with, you know, the senior center or the Aslan Center, so they know we're coming at that point in time, so we don't have to scramble around to get, you know, find a place to have a meeting. So, I don't know if anybody has any comments on whether, you know, it's a Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, but I think every other month probably plenty, unless, like I said, there's some pressing matter that needs to be resolved.
Was that in the form of a motion?
Well, I'm inviting a
Okay.
comment.
I think a discussion, it's a good start to the discussion. I would just like to open the discussion about the frequency. We've gone from monthly to quarterly to whenever we just decide we're going to have a meeting. I think, you know, given the total amount of business that we have, quarterly could work. We've just not really seen that happen frequently. We seem to come up with other reasons to have meetings, so I'd like to just open it up. Could we go with quarterly and get the business done?
I think I'd like to have the meetings on the books, and if we don't have business, it's easy enough to cancel.
Yeah, I think it seems to me that we've got a lot on our plate at the moment, so every other month would be good to begin with at least.
Do you have any feeling as to the day, Tuesday, Wednesdays? I mean, what works better for most folks? Not that we could accommodate everybody's schedule, but, you know, obviously no one wants it on a Friday or Saturday, so, you know.
I concur those are the Tuesday and Wednesday are the best days of the week. Every other month, I think is good enough with, you know, it tends to be, we do more in the first half of the year and less, you know, generally in the middle of the year. And then we have more activity, so, you know, the summer's most likely to be where the cancellation occurs. That's fine.
So are we then in agreement, the second Tuesday or Wednesday every other month, cancel as needed, special meetings if required? We're in agreement, we can.
I would make that motion that we have board meetings every other month. The second Tuesday or Wednesday of that month pursuant to when we can get these rooms, and everything else will just be as needed or not needed if we don't need it.
All right, all in favor? Second,
So 5-4.
That's a 4-0.
I don't vote unless
She
there's a
doesn't vote
tie.
until.
Okay.
Breaks ties.
All right, snow removal gift cards.
Okay, given that we have such a very small area, there seems to be very, very little interest in commercially doing it. So the idea is to simply give out gift cards and just give me, you know, either at an email or call me when you feel like you've done enough work to get a gift card, and I think we can stay well within our budget and perhaps even save some money if we can have people just take on the responsibility of those short segments that we have in the subdivision to keep the snow off one day after we get a heavy snow.
Would we email you or tell you how that works? I mean, I'm not interested in gift cards, but I'll be glad to clear the areas on
Well, if it's
Bubbling Brook. I
I-
have a snowblower, so.
I know that, and you've offered, and I appreciate it, there may be gift cards given out for people that don't tell you. Cause I know of a couple of people that have already done quite a bit of work, they will be rewarded with a gift card, they just have to figure out to what business they want the gift card made out to. But I would also love to encourage adolescents, get them into the spirit of doing work and getting paid for it.
And
I have a couple questions. Did anybody do any, due diligence on insurance?
As long as we, don't have any paid board members or volunteer, insurance should be, enforced.
What's on the website is the page that was signed. It's not the complete policy, but there's a checkbox saying, do you have any direct employees? We check no, because we don't.
Right.
Does that change that? Do we ask the question to make sure we're dotting our I and crossing our T? And I think there's two aspects that are of concern. One is if there's a slip and fall or something like that. The other is if the person who's doing the work injures themselves. You know, what happens? You know, sprained ankle, heart
Well, we
attack.
have the other side of it, if somebody injures themselves, if it's not done, we can get sued.
I'm talking both sides. And
Right,
so
that's like, which is the greater danger?
No, I'm just simply saying, do we have the right coverage? Do we need to recheck a box? I think we should probably, if going forward with this, just make sure that the insurance is correct so that we're not dealing with it after the fact, because that could be problematic.
John, you had
So I think the question is, if you give a volunteer a gift card, do they become, as far as the insurance is concerned, an employee?
they don't.
I wouldn't think so.
Is it worth checking that with?
Okay. It is workers' insurance, so
Workers' comp.
it will cover both volunteers and other, like, small employees that we are contractors who don't have enough insurance. So it should cover someone doing the,
Was that discussed at the time? I know you were.
yes,
addressing
it
that.
was.
Okay, great. Okay, great. So we did do that.
Herb?
Not sure if I understand everything, but are you a volunteer? If you just go out there and decide that I'm gonna clear my cul-de-sac area and the walkway to the other neighborhood?
I am so trusting.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, what's my status when I go out there?
You're a volunteer.
You're a volunteer.
You're a
I
volunteer.
mean, I've cleared things before, and I haven't even asked anybody.
Right,
Still.
and you just go do it, so you're still considered a quote-unquote volunteer of the
Yes, and if
community.
you think you've done enough work,
Um,
then it's up to you.
Amber's saying-
Now, since you're in the very far end, I might not see that you've done it, and again, I trust you.
Matt?
Just a minor point that may be crazy, but the fact that we budgeted the money for these gift cards, that doesn't taint it in favor of they are employees rather than volunteers.
We budgeted the money to contract for snow removal, we can't find anything. So the decision was to, provide gift cards to volunteers.
I understand, and I think it's, you know, a very creative idea. I just want to, from a technical standpoint, make certain that the fact that budget's at $1,500 doesn't somehow, in the eyes of the insurance company, mean that these people are now employees.
Well, we originally got a contract that was untenable. It was clear that they did not want our business. And when I refused their terms, they didn't come back at all and say, okay, well, we accept this. There was none of that. It was clear that the contract proffered was to shoo us away.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm making my point.
No, I hear what you're saying.
I know, but I mean, there
and
was
I will
last year.
with the insurance company.
Okay, I mean, just be very clear, because, you know, we've all heard of these dangerous, where somebody has been hurt doing this kind of volunteer work, and they end up suing, what would be our HOA, and
I think it's more of a thank you than it is a wage. You know,
and we have every right to do that. I just wanna make certain that that line item budget for $1,500 doesn't somehow make it a premeditated employment agreement kind of thing.
Can I make a motion that somebody checks with the insurance company?
I will,
Okay.
I can take care of that.
And, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I've been a volunteer for the last 15 years, from what I understand. I just go out and do it,
Yeah,
don't expect anything back.
Yeah, thank you.
well, you should.
Thank you.
Thank you, it's plenty.
Andy?
So in regards to next season, I just called some places just to kind of get an idea of what the market's like. And I learned two things I'd just like to share. One is, one company said that they're not just booked for this season, they're booked for next season and wouldn't have an opening unless somebody drops out. And another said, we only pair these things. We will only give snow removal if the landscaping contract is in conjunction. It contributes to making this more difficult. It's there's really, what I got as feedback is, nobody stays in business being just snow removal. It just doesn't work in Colorado because it's just too irregular with snows. So that being said, because we have a long-term landscaping contract, we're not gonna be able to access those that require the pairing. And we probably would have to think 2 years ahead if we wanna go back to a contractor with the big people.
Now, you recognize that you violated the rule that I'm to be the point contact.
Okay, let's.
With our,
hold
with our
on,
existing,
stop.
with our existing contractors, I can
Let's-
call anybody I please.
Let's, hold, Gloria, last comment?
In doing landscaping and talking to landscapers, they want as Andy said, a round-the-year contract, but that included the streets, which we go through the county to get our streets done,
Very complicated.
so that complicates it.
So we are in agreement that,
Gift cards.
people can notify Clay, of, good deeds, and he will provide gift cards, and he will track that, correct?
Yes. It, has to be accounted for.
Okay, hearing no
So,
objection,
should I make a motion that?
no one's objecting, so we can,
Right.
Consent.
all right. John has graciously volunteered to try and, help out getting our website in order. I think it's a great idea to, he's willing to do that, because it does need some help.
I mean, very briefly, I could describe what I'm proposing.
You're right, there are a few things on here, John, that as I read them, we're not allowed to do.
Okay.
Such as delete written communications to members, those all have to be kept.
Okay, I'll check that.
So
I thought it was after 3 years they could go.
there are some things that can go, but, and I would be happy to sit down with you and
Sure.
the two of us go through
Yep.
and brainstorm. But,
I mean, basically, the idea is to make it more user-friendly, so hopefully more people will use it, to reorganize it in line with the POHOA outline, and to provide helpful text and FAQs, which there's space for, but we haven't got at the moment.
comments? Andy?
I wish you success.
I think John's put a lot of work into it, and my discussions with him, tell me that he's up for the job and going to do a great job. I support this plan.
So we are in agreement, if there's no objections to John, taking on a managerial role, to help get the website in order.
Do we have could I make a motion that, John just simply be the administrator of the website? He would have to have administrator access to do these things.
He would not have to have administrator access to do these things.
I'd still like to make a motion that John be the administrator of the website.
What would the alternative be? A manager, you said?
There's administrator who appoints managers.
Right.
The only difference between the administrator and the managers is the administrator is the person that appoints managers.
I see.
Managers, can do everything. There's also a level called directors, which you can assign roles to. There's another level whose name escapes me at the moment, and then there's the resident portal.
So would you be happy with being a manager?
Yeah, sounds like that would allow me to do what was needed to be done.
Sure.
So there is a motion on the floor to make you administrator.
I understand what you're saying. I still think it would be a good idea. In doing these types of things, it requires access, sometimes getting support from front steps of the company. And having administrator access would be more efficient for John, so that he doesn't have to go and get special permission to do the one thing that the manager level doesn't do. And
Well,
being in
again, there's
technology for
nothing at the
20
manager level that he can't do.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes, Andy moved to make John
The administrator.
an administrator. Whereas,
It's not necessary for him to do the job, I don't think it's necessary to make him an administrator at this point, at least at this point in time. So,
there is the ability to appoint more than one administrator, which is an option.
I would accept an amendment to have I think he needs that level, so 2 administrators is fine, I think he needs that level. I think it's a practical and pragmatic idea to have him be administrator, and two administrators are fine.
Would there be a potential conflict with 2 administrators if they disagree?
They shouldn't take action before the
Sincerely
board.
doubt it. All right, so the amendment, or I'm sorry, the motion has been amended for John to be co-administrator of the website. In favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, the next item of business is the dog incident. I don't know who wants to start.
I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I have some motions to propose, if you will happy to entertain those. Yep. So, So I have three motions, you can see there, and they're connected, so if I describe all three, and then we can debate and vote on them separately. First, I move that the board creates and maintains a written record of the facts and actions taken.
Excuse me for interrupting.
Yep.
Do you want to actually make your motion at the moment, or discuss a proposed motion?
Okay, these are proposed motions.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason for that is it will demonstrate that we've followed the state law and conducted a fair and impartial fact-finding process. Second, I propose moving that the board evaluates the following four options. A, do nothing. B, reach an agreement with the homeowner to prevent a similar incident. C, pursue enforcement of use restrictions to prevent a similar incident. And D, pursue enforcement of use restrictions to remove the dog from the community. So those four options cover a range of things from the simplest to the hardest. Simplest being do nothing, of course. And they recognise that the animal at large and the nuisance potential violations can be considered together and separately to the vicious animals potential violation. So I like to think of them as two separate issues. And also note that if we went down the enforcement route, we would have to follow the process described in Kiowa, since our enforcement policy is out of date. And third and lastly, I move that the board gets legal advice to help it decide on these options as quickly as practicable. And that would help to justify that whatever decision we make is based on sound business judgment. And it also is another reason for making a record of facts and actions, because we would want to give that to our attorney. So that's the result of me spending a lot of time thinking about this.
All right, comments, discussion.
So certainly, we have a petition that we have to consider. And before we take any action on the dog incident, it might be best to know the ultimate composition of the board.
I personally am uncomfortable trying to figure out what to do without I think in this case, some legal advice. I think we need to consult an attorney.
Yes, and that's my third
Right.
motion.
Right.
But the way I've laid it out is my idea would be to go with them with facts and the actions we've already taken, and our options that I've laid out, so that we're saying, what do you think of these options, rather than going to the attorney and saying, what do we do?
Oh, we haven't taken any action at this point.
No, well, we have,
have.
because Clay has met with the.
Okay, I thought, yeah, okay. I thought you meant as a board.
I've canvassed all of the possible witnesses, some of which were willing to put down what they had seen and others were not. So basically I have 3 observations of what went on.
Mhm.
2 of which are very detailed and basically comprise the evidence beyond my other actions talking to the homeowners. When they finally agreed to talk, which was a couple of weeks after the incident.
And Andy's got the stuff from Laramie County on, that was, used for the citation and things, so
Right.
we have that too.
Um,
So the reason for my first one is that we have bits and pieces, we haven't actually collated them together into a record of the facts and actions taken.
Right.
Which is a simple enough task.
Andy?
So, am I to understand, nothing new has occurred since the annual meeting? Nothing?
Nothing has occurred since
Okay.
then.
Could we, there was doing research on the subject in general, altitude law has several classes on there, and I've reviewed some, John sent me a link to one of these videos. Jeff Smith is the head litigator. One of the comments that I think we should just talk about is he makes a statement that the HOA is not in the business of providing safety or security to the homeowners. This is the opinion of somebody teaching a class for altitude law and saying, we're not in that business, we don't do that. So when we get to what the basis of enforcement is, I'm wondering at this point about the combination of animal control didn't write a citation for dangerous dog. The district attorney did not even pursue the at-large or nuisance elements. So all the criminal side is just gone. There's no revisiting that whatsoever. Yes, I agree with you. We need legal advice. But should we have a resolution about what it is that we're enforcing and what the outcome is that we're looking for? Because I think it informs any agreement we reach with the parties.
No, I think the CCRs are pretty clear, concerning what a vicious or dangerous dog, however you want to characterize it. And obviously we have one. We have direct knowledge of that. And if you do nothing, then you're basically you're saying you're not gonna enforce your CCRs, and you leave yourself open to potential liability if it happens again. We wouldn't be even having this discussion if this dog had attacked a child. I mean, it would be open and shut.
But the criminal case would probably be different too.
The criminal case is neither here nor there. I'm talking about civil liability, which has no bearing on criminal liability in this regard. So, like I say, I think having knowledge beforehand that we have a vicious dog in the neighborhood that is prone to attack, like I say, if it was a grandchild or your child, we wouldn't be having a discussion. And if it did happen again, despite anybody's measures to prevent it, I mean, accidents happen, dogs get loose. Where are we at that point? If a child was maimed, you're looking at millions of dollars worth of potential liability to this HOA. And I think that's something you gotta consider.
John?
Yeah, and thanks for that, Walker. I mean, my option D is to do what you're suggesting there, to pursue enforcement, to get the dog removed from their communities. But the way I see it is that's one of 4 options that we need to evaluate and do that with advice from an attorney.
Yeah, I agree, you need advice from a lawyer.
And the danger of trying to make that decision now, I think, without having fully discussed them or talked to somebody is difficult. So what I'm trying to lay out here is what I believe our options are.
I concur.
Could I ask John, could you talk about what you've learned about the business judgment rule and how that applies to this situation? It's not mentioned in your proposal.
No, the business judgment rule is, as far as I understand, something that the court will consider, and they will use it to decide whether or not a board such as ours is liable for something that happens. And the way they will make that decision is if we've analysed a problem, we've looked at the pros and cons of different options, we've had professional advice, whether it's from an attorney or from an engineer or an accountant or whatever, and come to a decision. So if that decision turns out to be wrong in the future and there's a court case surrounding it, then there's a very good chance that the court would apply this business judgment rule and said we did what anyone would do in that circumstance, and we didn't make any willful or wanton decision that could be prosecuted.
Are you saying that gives us the scenario that Walker brings up, which must be considered? If we decide, for instance, after going to the attorney, that the odds of our success in getting your removal from the court, an injunction, are less than 100%, and the cost is so high that it's impractical, it would be gambling our money. Could we make that decision and say, this doesn't make business sense, and then if that secondary incident occurs, would we automatically be liable, or?
Well, I think we're talking about things that none of us are qualified to make statements on. And I, for one, I really appreciate the thought that you have put into this, and I would be all for, going to an appropriate attorney with these options in mind, with our collated information, and gathering advice.
Yeah, that's what I'm proposing.
I just have a question. And I don't quite understand, is there a restriction in the HOA against pit bulls?
Yes.
Yes.
So, we have to go to court every time someone breaks a HOA rule?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
And
Yeah.
so I guess I don't quite understand why you have to go to court or get
We're
legal
not going
advice.
to,
I mean, get legal advice to enforce an HOA rule that all homeowners already agreed to. I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, the legal advice is to make sure that we choose the most appropriate option.
So there is an option not listed here, is to pursue the fine option.
Yeah, that's what I meant by the enforcement.
Right, okay, so,
and since they redid all those rules, we need legal advice on how to do that as well.
Yeah, basically, the new law is so convoluted that we couldn't even attempt to handle that ourselves. We need a lawyer to really look at it and say, this is how you have to go about it if you're gonna do it.
So John, did I hear you say you were making a motion to,
Yeah, these are
collate the information, collate the information, and seek legal advice with these, potential actions in mind?
Yeah.
Is that, did I capture it properly?
Question, the convoluted law you're referring to, is that CCIOA you're talking about, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, it's,
and then I have another question.
yeah.
Is the board or HOA in any way handicapped or limited in its response? Because I'm pretty sure the our CCRs refer to dogs attacking people, not dogs attacking
Right.
dogs.
but in the second part,
Second part,
it does extend it to attacks on animals. It's almost as if the CCRs have a flaw in the first part, but
Okay.
included
I
in the
wasn't
second
aware of
part.
And the CCRs, as I read it, it doesn't matter whether the dog attacks, it's whether you just have a pit bull or a Rottweiler or whatever. That's,
Well, that's,
I like to make
Okay.
another point along that line. There are plenty of other vicious dogs in the neighborhood. Border collies, there's 4 in the neighborhood that have attacked me and my dogs, and I would like to somehow get that clarified, that we deal with vicious dogs, not just specific breeds of dogs.
and
That's
it
a-
does, and it does deal with like vicious dogs.
Andy,
I'd just like to, Jack, right?
Yep.
So, it's not that convoluted, there's basically 2 30-day periods, so first you have to give notice.
okay, I'm gonna interrupt because we're not here to discuss the process of the fine. We're here to decide how to move forward, and there's a motion on the floor to collate the information we have thus far, and take it to seek legal advice, with the options that have been listed in mind.
Could I finish my thought?
No.
There's 2 30-day periods.
Any other comments on that? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, John, I can work with you, as you get access to the website, and show you, and help you, gather that information to put it Our last agenda item is the petition for a special homeowners meeting.
Well, I would make a motion that we get on with it. If you have a date available, let's do it. Do you have a date that this room or some other room is available?
Well, thinking about the timelines for notice and stuff like that, the earliest date that, I think would be comfortable to make sure we meet those notice requirements would be January 25th.
I make a motion that we go forward on January 25th.
Andy?
I've already previously sent in writing an accommodation, that I would need to have it pushed out a little bit farther, because of things that I need to do. I was asking for, frankly, optimally, I need 6 weeks, but,
Well, I think we need to get this board settled so we can get on to the business of the HOA, and if we're gonna be removed, we're gonna be removed, and I'd say the sooner the better, let's get on with it.
my accommodation is related to treatment.
No, I don't know how that affects the vote of the homeowners, so,
Right, this isn't a trial, this is a petition to recall 2 members and to consider an amendment to the bylaws.
But I'm asking for an accommodation,
You,
just to be clear. 'cause
right,
I'm
I
in a-
hear
I'm
what
in
you're,
a-
I
I'm
hear
in
what
a-
you're saying.
I'm in a disabled position at that point.
Any other comments?
Well, just a point of order, it wouldn't be possible to have a vote at that special meeting
Yes, it
on the bylaws, unless 2/3 of the members of the community showed up and we voted the same way.
No, you only need, for bylaws, you only need the
50%,
majority
that's right.
of a quorum. It's the CCNRs that you need 2/3.
Okay.
It gets, I have to write it down sometimes to remember.
is this petition being posted on the website? So
No.
the homeowners, okay.
No,
The
it
homeowners
will,
need to know that there's also an amendment, there's a proposed amendment.
when the letter goes out, it will list exactly verbatim what is in the petition. All right,
I would like to say something. I would just like to say, we got 5 new members, 2 of them have had problems. But I'd like to see these 5 people try to work their problems out and move ahead. I don't really want to start kicking people off the board again.
well, I hear what you're saying, but we have a petition, we have no choice but to hold the meeting.
Come
We don't,
votes
it's
to the
not an
special
option.
meeting.
But we're not going anywhere by kicking board members off all the time.
All right, so all in favor of January 25th for the special meeting? Opposed? All right, we will,
Was my request for an accommodation denied?
the motion was to hold it January 25th and it passed.
Okay, but a request for accommodation is an FHA matter.
The motion passed, Andy.
I understand that, but I'm asking for an accommodation.
Could we just hold that vote again? I was.
No, we
thinking-
can't.
Oh, all right.
You can change your vote.
Yeah. I'd like to change my vote.
the vote's been recorded. Once it's recorded, you can't change your vote.
Point of order, yes, you can, and the way that goes, point of order, yes, per parliamentary rule, you can take your vote back. If the chair says, point not well taken, which you're allowed to do, then that issue becomes a vote of the members. Just a point of order, that's parliamentary procedure. That's
That
all it
issue
is.
being what?
Rescinding a vote, it is part of Robert's rules, you are allowed to do so.
John, would you like to change your vote?
Yes, I would, please, I'm sorry.
All right, so we are 2 and 2, and I vote to hold it, so we're 3 and 2. I will write a letter, in the same manner as the last one and get it in the mail. We are at 8:01, we are at the end of the meeting. We are adjourned.
We have to vote on adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
We can adjourn if the time has come, we can, you don't need a motion to adjourn.
Parliament, point of order, you need to vote.
No, you don't, not when the time, the published time at the end is come.
FYI,